one of the goals that I had for my year was to actually read more books that would be good for my mind. And I have read some amazing books. I read one or two that I wasn't overly impressed with, but I've been doing really good on that. So today's book is something that I'm not sure I should include because, is it really weight loss related? I don't know. It is another memoir. It's called A Light Through the Cracks by Beth Rodden. And I've honestly really debated back and forth about including this in my year review and not. I don't know. But this book is about a mountain climber who was a professional mountain climber. And she was actually on a trip to mountain climb with her boyfriend, a photographer, and another mountain climber because they were professional mountain climbers. And they were doing this for the North Face, actually, who was their sponsor at that point. And they were on an overseas trip. And they were kidnapped. Now, they did eventually get away, and they got away on their own, probably before anybody even realized that they were missing. And they made it home. But this girl then really struggled with post-traumatic stress, with living her life without fear, and with moving on. And it was a pretty good read. Now, I'll be honest with you, I picked it up because of the gory details for the kidnapping, and it really didn't go into really gory details. The story of the kidnapping was interspersed throughout the book. So the book actually kind of tells the story more or less of her climbing life and being a professional climber. But interspersed with this is tidbits of her kidnapping story, and sprinkled heavily throughout it is the post-traumatic stress and the fallout from being kidnapped. She suffered with fear. She suffered with, a lot of different things. But throughout the book, she actually talks about, things that were happening and how she was overcoming, how she was growing, how she was actually bettering herself. And I don't want to steal the thunder, but by the end of the book, she was in a much better place emotionally. But it took a lot of years. Now, why I am going to go ahead and include this as one of my books is, number one, I'm way ahead already. I think this is book 6 or 5. I'm actually reading another one currently. So this one is actually going to be 5. And then I have book 6 almost done. And it's only April. So I'm actually ahead of my one a month. So, it's fair enough. But the reason I'm including it is for 2 reasons. Number one, because it shows how trauma, emotions, and stress in our life can affect so much. And it talks and is inspirational because she did push herself through. Now, she did have to have some very gentle, not so gentle maybe, nudges to actually fix herself, but she did. And so it's always inspiring to see someone lift themselves up out of the mire. But the second reason is because of the perseverance that it takes for a mountain climber. I mean, she was a professional mountain climber, and she did talk about her fears of losing her sponsors and losing her professional status. And it talked about what she was doing to push herself forward. And it is amazing what the body can do. She talks about how, it was off season, so I went out mountain climbing the first time, and it just ripped my hands to shreds. My hands were bleeding, and, and I'm like, ooh. The average person would be like, why would you want to do that? But it actually shows human resiliency, and it shows what we can achieve if we really want to. And this lady actually had some amazing accomplishments during her career. So it shows you what the human body is capable of if you push yourself to do it. We don't push ourselves. Let's be honest. We really don't push ourselves. I actually would really recommend this book. It was not because of the gore and the kidnapping, which was very minor, but because of the insight into an athlete's mind and the insight into mountain climbing. I learned so much about mountain climbing that it was ridiculous. It was not overly technical. It was not dumbed down, so I felt like it was for a kid. It was written in such a way that it read really well, and I learned as I went. So it was actually a good book. So I'm going to include it because inspiration, motivation, education, and a little bit of gore and drama with the kidnapping. Anyway, I highly recommend it. It was a good read. Let me know in the comments if you actually end up reading it. No excuses. It actually talks about her meeting her boyfriend. Zoe! Zoe! Get over here! Come! I think this is six. I think this is book 6. 1, 2, 3. Much better state than where she was when she was. The book actually goes through her life, and then it actually just flashes back to the story of her kidnapping. Zoe, stop it. And one of my things that I wanted to do this year was to read more books that would be good for my mind.